And today we have Mr. Daryl Jones of Gettysburg, more or less. He'll explain. Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania to talk about how to interview and what test optional really means. So, Mr. Jones, it's all yours.
All right. Well, first, thank you all for having me, neighbors. I actually live in the Colesville Gardens section of Silver Spring, and here's the explanation. Last Thursday at 3 p.m. precisely, I retired after 37 years of being at Gettysburg College. So I'm going to frame my remarks with regard to who my past employer was. And, here's the deal. I'm going to keep it simple. There's no flash, there's no anything crazy. I'm just going to tell you like it is. And first, what I'm going to talk about today is how to win the interview, because that's the idea behind it. And also, what test optional really means. But I'm going to take the second topic first. So, many colleges and universities decided to be test optional in 2020 because of the pandemic. Now, many are re-examining that and saying, oh, we don't know, we're checking, we're going to maybe do it one more year. Gettysburg College was an earlier adoptee in that it went test optional in 2006. But the earliest places, certainly places like Bowdoin College, Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania, Bates College in Maine, were doing the research that we benefited from, and that is simply this. If you look at school as a 9-month per year proposition, it is going to outweigh and outperform any kind of standardized test. And that could be the SAT is going to change what your college advisors are going to talk to you about. And I don't want to get into it because I'm not doing their advertising for them, meaning the testing sites. But basically, if you look at our great school system in Montgomery County, and I'm a proud taxpayer for that school system because I believe in it 100%, here's what I know. If you're taking a great curriculum and you're doing well, and you survive what for you was a challenging 9th grade, let's say, or even 10th grade, and you're a great student, you can be a test optional candidate. So the definition of test optional is a simple one. Test optional means that you have the option to submit your testing or not. Now, there are some places that are test blind. The definition of that is even if you submit your testing, those colleges and universities will delete it from every part of your record, including the self-reported parts, or even if you filled it out on a resume or something of that sort, they're going to delete it. So there is no advantage nor disadvantage to applying to a place that is test optional versus not. And here's why. If you think about English class, learning to write, learning to process, learning to critically analyze, those are things that you learn in 9 months per year. Now, you can measure potential as it is measured by the SAT. You can measure actual gathered knowledge as it is measured by the ACT, or by the AP exams or IB exams or whatever else there might be. But what I know for sure is that consistency, diligence, attitude, your work ethic, what your teachers say when they believe in you and write recommendations, that's going to tell us a whole lot more than any standardized test. So, was I proud when Gettysburg College went test optional? Absolutely. But I was more proud when so many more of my colleagues decided at their institutions to go test optional a few years ago, because they too understood that test optional does not mean there's a deficit, Test optional just means you're not submitting your testing. Now, here's the very unscientific part. If you're applying to a test optional college or university, you can decide to submit your testing if you're happy with it. And by happy with it, I say this: if it's at or above the institution's average or middle 50% range, submit it if you want. If your scores are at the bottom of the institution's range, don't do it. And I can be even less scientific. If your scores make you do this, submit them. If your scores make you do this, don't. So that's all I want to spend on the test optional piece. And certainly, if you have questions about the test optional piece, you can place them into the chat. But it really is quite simple. Lots of people had questions over the past 2 years about test optional. Is it really an advantage or a disadvantage? Do these places really mean it when they say they are test optional? I can tell you with absolute certainty, because I trust my colleagues at colleges and universities nationwide, test optional means test optional, plain and simple. I need you to remember that, because colleges and universities are not doing things to play games. They are doing it to enroll classes. And the way they prove that the process works is simple. They're doing regression analysis to see that those without testing versus those with testing are performing at the same level. That has been the case at Gettysburg College for several years, and again at places that were even early adopters of test optional policies. They know it as well. Now, the total test optional policy means it's not just about the ACT, not just about the SAT, but for those of you who attend college prep programs with the International Baccalaureate exams, well, we don't necessarily need those to make sure you're admitted. Same with advanced placement. We don't need those to make sure you're admissible. That's test optional. Now, this idea of the interview, I have to tell you that my favorite aspect of the job I had was interviewing high school students. So when I tell you that interviews are built to help you to win, that means you should do them. You should do them. I'm going to give you 3 components of communication and 3 components that are percentages that match. They are body language, they are tone, meaning your tone of voice, and word selection or word choice. So again, they are body language, tone, and word choice. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about how the following percentages that I'm going to give you match up. They are 10 and 30 and 60. You might be thinking that words are the highest percentage, but believe it or not, they are not. So body language, believe it or not, is 60% of how we communicate. Your tone is 30% of how we communicate face to face. Words are only 10%. That might sound weird, but it's true. When we were babies, we were not understanding words spoken to us, but we understood positive body language. We understood positive tone. That's 90% of how we communicate. And I did that just to make the math easy, because some researchers will tell you that 92 or 93% of each message we give face to face is in the body language and the tone. So here is where I'll start with body language. You want to make sure you give off positive body language all the time, all the time. And that means you can't approach an interview, and I'm going to exaggerate. If you come in frowning, we're going to say you're not happy and you're not deserving of a space. If you come in with your arms crossed, that's a barrier. That means we're going to assume you don't want to be there. What you should do is make sure you have good posture so that you can breathe well. And I believe body language is partially what you're wearing. So I'll use the examples of a dear retired friend of mine at Lafayette. His name is Chuck Bachman. The number of times that he saw people wearing polo shirts from their bitter rival Lehigh University, which is just a few miles away, it's astounding. And my buddy Bruce Bunnick, who is still the dean at Lehigh University, would see the same. So don't wear a rival college's clothing or any other college's clothing to your college interview. This may seem like common sense, but it's not so common. T-shirts with inappropriate messages or inappropriate products for your age group should not happen. You should not wear them. And the only time, because we live in the DMV, we know what heat and humidity is. Don't wear suits unless you are, or any formal gear, unless you are interviewing for a scholarship or about to do some sort of audition for theater, for music, or art. That's body language. You should expect to receive it. You should expect to give it. So if you think about your interactions with teachers, your college counselors, your career center professionals, think about how they've shown you through their body language that they respect you, and then reflect that. With tone, that's pretty simple as well. If you speak like this when we ask you about your favorite things, we're going to assume that you're bored with what you do. It's not that you have to sound like a game show host and say, I play field hockey because it's absolutely terrific, and I can't wait till my next season because I would run away from you. But if your tone makes you sound as if you're interested in what you are saying, then you're okay. With word choice, here is what you need to think of. There is one word, like, L-I-K-E, that only has two proper meanings, two proper usages. One is an affinity for something. I like ice cream because I do. Or creating a simile or a comparison. Ice cream is like gelato. I also like gelato. But if you say things that I've heard teenagers say, which drove me nuts, this is going to hurt you in the interview. And this is a teenager, one of the last interviews I gave, talking about her calculus class. Okay, so like we had this chapter on like derivatives, and it was like a whole bunch of letters and stuff, but like my mom was good at math. So like I went to her and I was like, what do these coefficients mean? And she was like, well, like, don't look at them as like coefficients. Look at them as like ways to help you to like understand the formula. What I was doing was counting the number of likes and ums. So even though I'm not there with you to make you do it, I authorize your college and career coordinators and your college advisors to do the following: to make you promise to not use the word like as often as you blink, inhale, and exhale, because it makes you sound silly. And I believe you should represent the taxpayer dollars that all of us are giving to make sure you have a great education. The interview is a favorite because we get to find out more about you. Rarely is it going to be truly evaluative because our job is to make it a good experience for you. But here is what we're going to ask about. We're going to ask about you, your life at school, your life beyond school as far as you want us to know, any circumstances that you've had to overcome so that we are aware of them, things that you've faced that are challenges, things that are victories, and you can have us ask a number of questions about that, or you can volunteer that information. Contrary to what is popular belief, We're not going to ask you silly things like, if you had to be a vegetable tomorrow, which one would you be and why? If you had to be the left shoe or the right shoe, which one would you be and why? In a box of Crayola crayons, you could be any color. Which one would you pick to be for a lifetime and why? We're not going to ask those because those are silly questions and the answers to them have no meaning. But instead, we're going to ask you how you're doing. Now, this was actually an off-campus interview that I gave to a student who attended a rather exclusive private school in New York City. And I'm giving you verbatim and by action what this student did. My first question to all interviewees is always, how are you doing? Here was his answer, including the move with the glasses. How I'm doing is actually the result of the experiences I've had in totality over my 17 years. How I am doing, therefore, is who I am. Folks, if you had gotten to know me over my professional life, you'd know that my face doesn't hide what I'm feeling. And I'm pretty sure that my face did the typical thing when I'm frightened of a person, and I did this quickly. Because I thought, I have 45 more minutes with this person sitting across the table from me. So when we're asking you how you're doing, just tell us. If you're nervous, tell us. If you're tired, tell us. If you're maybe fatigued because your parent or guardian has made you go to too many colleges that week, tell us. Honesty is always the best policy. When we ask you about your school, tell us about the size of your school. Tell us about what things are offered both in and out of the classroom. Tell us about the setting. Tell us why you like it. So in other words, it's your job to do a little positive public relations for your school, because it's not guaranteed that you will interview with the DC area rep at every place you interview. When we ask you about you tell us how you're doing academically. You tell us about your favorite teachers. You tell us about your favorite features of the school, what's going on at home, again, to whatever degree you're comfortable. You tell us what has helped you to excel, and then you tell us what interests you about the college and university at which you're interviewing. This is the simple part. We're not asking you to show us how well versed you are on everything on the website, but we are asking you to know things. So you should never show up at a college and ask how many people attend the place. You should know that ahead of time. You should never show up at a college and ask if there is a psychology major and if the psychology major is good, because A, you should know if the major is there, and B, you should know that it's good if the place offers it. What you should always do is ask the following two questions. One, how much time do students want to spend with their faculty members, their professors, beyond the required time in the classroom and office hours? There, you're getting at the essence of whether or not students like their professors. And then the next question to ask is, how much time do professors want to spend with students beyond the required classroom and office hours? Because that tells you whether or not the professors actually spend time with students and like them. The third question to ask is why students choose the place and why they stay for 4 years. Because that'll tell you not just about the initial excitement of why people went to a place, but what keeps them there, which should lead to a high retention, which is sometimes just referred to as freshman to sophomore year success, and graduation rate, which is how many people graduate. We're going to ask you with a light flow, how are you? How was your trip? How are you doing? How's school? We're going to go a little deeper. Tell me about your favorite classes. Tell me about challenges you've had. We might go deeper still and ask you to describe yourself in a few adjectives or a few phrases, but we'll decompress it by saying, what can I answer for you about our institution? What can I give to you that will allow you to make a better choice? How can I help you to better understand our institution? So plan on interacting. Plan on being listened to. Plan on doing the majority of the talking. And then understand that the people who interview you might be alumni of the college or university. They might be carefully selected interns who are seniors, or they might be admissions people who work for the college or university. Either way, our job is to make sure that your experience is positive. So to prepare, do this. Wear something comfortable. Again, don't dress up unless you need to for an audition or a scholarship. Be someone who's ready to talk about yourself. Be someone who's curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions that are on your mind after doing research. And the way to do this, and this is not something you should quote me on, is you should actually practice at a college that you're actually not thinking about that heavily. Now, if you say at that first college, listen, I don't really like you, but some guy named Daryl Jones told me that you, as my non-favorite college, need to be my practice interview, I'll deny having said this. But if you practice at a place that you're not necessarily thinking about, number one, you might end up liking it. Number two, you'll become comfortable talking about yourselves. The best people to practice with, the very best people to practice with. And you have to set up time to do it. Your college and career center coordinators all are wonderful professionals. Your college advisors, your guidance counselors, they are accustomed to dealing in a positive way with teenagers. Use their time because they are experts on you, meaning experts on teenagers, and they are experts on all sorts of colleges. They can help you with this idea of setting up appointments. They can help you with this idea of bringing out the best in you. They can help you with this idea of printing a resume that is simple that you can take to each appointment. That way, the interview is not so much an interview as it is a conversation. A chance for you to show the best of who you are, a chance for the representative of the institution to show the best of what it is, and a chance for there to be a matching process. That was a lot of talking, but I wanted to get across to you that this whole idea of being first at a test optional place, there's no need to be nervous about it. And second, the idea of interviewing, it's done because we like teenagers, and your job is simple. Make sure we continue to like teenagers. I know you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine because, again, the professionals that work with you through this entire process care about you and care about your success. So I want to thank you, and I want to see if there are any questions that were elevated at all in the chat. And if not, I will thank you for your time and wish you the very best through your entire process.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Jones.
Sure.
If a school does not offer an interview, is it okay to request one?
That is a great question. And the answer is no, it is not okay. I mean, it's okay to request one, but to leave it alone if they say no again. Part of the reason why some places don't do it is a simple volume. It's too many for people to handle. They don't have the staff, they don't have the alumni base, they don't have the interns. So you can ask, and the best thing to do is to send an email to your geographic representative, which you can find on the website. Either look for a Montgomery County specifically, because many colleges and universities have that, or again, greater Washington, D.C. metro area, but send an email to that person saying, I noted that you don't offer interviews. Is there a chance for us to meet when you're in my area visiting my school? Or is there a chance for me to spend some time with you when I visit your university? So that's okay to do, because people will often have 15 or 20 minutes of time. But usually when an interview is not offered, it's for reasons that are well researched. So I say send the sneaky email to your geographic representative and then leave it alone after that.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Any CCICs have questions? Well, it looks like you did a phenomenal job. So thank you so much for your time today. And best of luck to you